Hi everyone, Mrs. Below here. In this video, I'm going to go over how to draw the covalent Lewis dot structure for NH3. So the first thing you want to do is you want to write the element that you only have one of in the compound or molecule, which in this case we only have one nitrogen and we have 3 hydrogens. So I'm going to put that one nitrogen in the center, and then 3 hydrogens we're going to put around that. The nitrogen is what we're going to call the central atom. Next, we're going to add our valence electrons to each of these elements. So for nitrogen, let me go to the periodic table here. Nitrogen is in group 15, so it will have 5 valence electrons. That can be found at the top of each group on your periodic table. So I'm going to go ahead and add those 5 valence electrons, and I'm going to do it like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Next, I'm going to look at hydrogen, and that is in group 1, so that has 1 valence electron. And I'm going to have each of those valence electrons. I'm actually going to use a different color for hydrogen. I'm going to have each of those valence electrons, instead of putting them here, I'm going to put them on the side that is facing the nitrogen. Now, your goal is to have 8 valence electrons around each element. Besides, of course, hydrogen, because it's only going to have 2 valence electrons max. So what I can do is I'm going to move this hydrogen here. So now these 2 electrons are being shared between the nitrogen and the hydrogen. So now the hydrogen is technically surrounded by 2. It has 2 valence electrons, which that will satisfy I know it's not 8, but it satisfies that full octet rule for hydrogen because it's one of those exceptions. We can take this hydrogen and we can put it here to form a bond between the nitrogen and that hydrogen. So this hydrogen's happy because it has 2 electrons. Now if I do the same thing with this last one and form another bond, now look at the nitrogen. It is surrounded by 2, 4, 6, 8 valence electrons total. Most of those are in bonds, and then we have this lone pair here. So for my final drawing, I'm going to have my nitrogen in the middle. It has its 2 lone pairs, so one lone pair, excuse me, those 2 electrons that aren't participating in bonding. And instead of those 2 dots, we're going to use a line. This line, or this bond, represents those 2 electrons being shared. And then we're going to bond that with our hydrogen. Again, this bond, this line, represents these 2 electrons being shared. And then same thing. This represents those 2 electrons being shared. So each line is 2 electrons. And if you look at nitrogen, it has 2, 4, 6, 8 electrons surrounding it. And hydrogen only has 2, which that is okay for hydrogen because it's so small. Again, it's one of those exceptions to the octet rule. And this right here would be my final answer.